Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and as a nation of animal lovers, we've tied ourselves in knots recently about the culling of an alpaca with TB, the use of transports to evacuate animals out of Afghanistan while we left thousands of human beings behind. So how are we going to cope with the prospect of culling maybe about 100,000 perfectly healthy pigs because of Brexit worker shortages? Completely healthy animals to be destroyed. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So our shortage of workers is pretty widespread throughout the food chain, really. Retail chain in general, actually. But in the national emergency that we spent some time warning Brexit would gift us, I think food is the most urgent concern for most people. In fact, it's been a sick joke this year that when the consequences of Brexit started to hit, the best the Brexiteers could do was to say that Brexit was fine because it's not like we're going to starve. It was like, oh yeah, Brexit's going to be brilliant. It's not going to be brilliant, but it's going to be all right. Well, we're not going to starve. It's worth it because we're not going to starve. I wonder how they're going to defend it when people are actually doing just that. More people. There are already people going very hungry. I mentioned a week or two ago that on the food production end of things, it wasn't just a shortage of workers on farms or in chicken factories, but that even abattoirs were suffering shortages and reducing the number of days they could be active. They can't operate the full week. Well, this was another crisis warned about where the Brexit chickens are now coming home to roost, only this time it's pigs. As a result of this shortage, which again has been caused by telling EU workers that we used to have to bugger off, a bit of a backlog has developed. A report from just under a week ago had that backlog at 70,000 pigs, but they also said it increases by about 15,000 a week. The National Pig Association said that if they don't do something soon, by they I think they mean the government, they're going to have to destroy the animals. Pig farmers have already been incurring Brexit losses as a result of losing former customers in the EU, thanks to our extreme Tory Brexit, and now they can't even sell to the domestic market. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I'll probably carry on saying it. Brexit means that we can't even sell food to ourselves when we have a shortage of food. How can that not be insane enough for people to want to reverse this madness? How much more insane does Brexit have to get? We have food shortages and we can't even sell the food we have a shortage of to ourselves. And the knock-on effect of this for the pig farming industry is obvious. Exporting is problematic. So that has hit the viability of some farms already. Domestic sales are difficult because of shortages of workers at the processing end of things, to say nothing of the distribution problems affecting everyone. The National Pig Association said that they expect a bit of an exodus from the sector next year. Now, I don't know if this is an exaggeration on the part of an organisation, let's face it, whose job it is to lobby for that sector, or whether it's accurate. But it is logical that the sector will shrink if it cannot make sales. It cannot continue to operate at a loss as it is doing now. So whether exodus is the right word or not, if the core problems are not dealt with, the sector will obviously shrink. Because it's one thing to make a loss in a particular year if you can weather that and go, but we can see that things in place are going to make it better next year. But if you look at the situation, go, the same problems we had this year are still in place next year and there's no plan to get rid of them ever, why would you stay in that business? You couldn't even afford it. And guess what that means? That means greater reliance on imports. Because we're still going to have an appetite for that food. We just won't be able to produce it ourselves. We'll have to import it. Frankly, the only silver lining in all this that I can see is that come winter, I am going to have a video entitled Brexit Britain has run out of gammon. It's coming. Nothing can stop it. I could probably design the thumbnail right now. And as someone who likes to do a gammon cooked in orange juice at Christmas, I'm not going to be impressed, though I suppose in reality I will still be able to do that. It will just cost more. But for the cheaper cuts, that people who will have very real problems of hunger as the prices increase due to low supply, well, that cheaper word there is going to become somewhat comparative. I wish I'd actually gone around in January, I should have done, and checked the prices of cheaper staple foods, to compare with the end of the year, really. I hope someone else has and produces a report on it, because that could be quite fascinating. I've said before that from my non-analytical observations, I've noticed a lot of the foods that we get have gone up in price this year. But a lot of the cheaper ones that I would have had at a time when I didn't have much money have actually tended to stay the same. They don't seem to have increased much. But the prices can't stay low for long, because it's simple enough, really. If you have a choice of where to shop, where do you go? Now, in a time of shortages, you go to the supermarket, which will most reliably have the items in stock. No one wants to have multiple fruitless journeys. No one wants to go into a supermarket, right, let's see how many of these items I can get. Right, let's get to the next one and the next one and the next one. You want to go to one place where you can get everything. So supermarkets, if they want to be that one, will have to pay more to get enough food to persuade shoppers that their shelves are the well-stocked ones. They'll have to pay drivers more to deliver those items, as some are. They may even need to pay more for the staff to put those items on the shelves. They'll certainly have to pay more for the food. When there's a shortage of it, they'll be the ones who have to pay the premiums for it. That all means having to charge more for that food to the consumer. And that's without considering the higher price at the production and processing level, because they're having to pay their staff more as well. An article in the Financial Times noted that entry-level meat processing jobs started from £18,000 a year last year. It's now £22,000. That's going to have to be paid for by consumers at the end of the day. Now, there is talk of some shortages easing soon. I talked the other day about how the end of the furlough scheme might be the way the government sees of creating a new workforce, basically. Because when furlough goes, there's going to be a load of people without a job all of a sudden, overnight. But let's be honest, these people are not going to have HGV licenses. They're not going to be qualified butchers. So there's a lot of shortages they're not going to help with. And even, if the shortage is in terms of unskilled jobs where training can be managed in like a few hours, and the workplace happens to be located where there is a hotspot of these soon-to-be unemployed furlough staff, which is not a given, we might see some recovery. But it doesn't solve the problem of crops rotting in the fields, because that's not going to help there. It doesn't stop the problem of distribution. And it doesn't stop the problem of having to pay to maintain pigs that cannot get to market. But of course, if pig farmers can't keep paying to keep the pigs that they won't be able to sell, hence why we've been told they're going to be destroyed en masse in a few weeks if the government does nothing to help. I suppose if it becomes a politically tricky issue for them, they might solve it by just throwing money at the problem like they always do. Pay farmers to keep the pigs to avoid the negative headlines. It won't solve the problem of getting that pig inside my sandwiches, of course. Finally, there was an interesting take, I thought, on this from the grocer, which, might be the second time. I think it's the second time in 2 days I've cited that particular journal. But the point is that they wondered if the National Farmers Union might not employ a campaign that takes advantage of our love for animals to press the public on the unfolding tragedy of having to just kill tens of thousands of perfectly healthy pigs for no good reason. They cited Farthing's rescue of cats at the expense of people from Afghanistan as an example of how you can get public support for something like this. And in the case of the looming pig cull, we don't even need to persuade the government to sentence a load of actual people to death in order to act. Unfortunately, it would mean getting George Eustace, who's the cabinet minister responsible, to actually do something, which may be an even bigger ask than getting the Foreign Secretary to come back from holiday during the biggest foreign policy disaster in nearly a century. Not that I've seen the Farmers Union making an animal welfare pitch to the public. In fact, I checked their website out. This story is not even on the homepage of their website. Or if it is, it's well hidden. I even clicked on the livestock section. All cows and sheep, not a sausage, if you'll pardon the expression on pigs. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.